Merab Dvalishvili was born on January 10, 1991, in the small Georgian village of Vani, just outside Tbilisi. This was a turbulent time as the Soviet Union was on the verge of collapsing, and Georgia was in the throes of its own struggles, witnessing the chaos of war, poverty, and lawlessness. Despite the challenges surrounding him, Dvalishvili's early life was a testament to resilience and strength. Growing up in this environment, Merab was conditioned by the harsh realities of life, and the warrior spirit that is a hallmark of Georgian culture was ingrained in him from an early age. His family faced severe hardships, living with no electricity or gas, surrounded by violence. But it was in this crucible that Dvalishvili's ironclad determination began to forge. As a young boy, he quickly earned a reputation for being fearless and willing to take risks that others would shy away from. At just 6 years old, Merab nearly drowned in an icy river while on a family trip in the Georgian mountains. His impulse to dive into the water, despite the warnings, nearly cost him his life. But his older brother managed to pull him from the current just in time. Even after this close call, Merab remained undeterred by fear. He continued swimming in treacherous waters, his disregard for danger becoming a defining trait of his personality. Merab's early experiences were filled with equally reckless acts, whether jumping onto nails barefoot or grabbing hold of exposed electrical wires. These daring acts seemed to symbolize more than youthful folly. They demonstrated an innate defiance of fear and pain. Merab didn't flinch at adversity. Instead, he faced it head-on. His brother recalls how, after stepping on a nail that pierced his foot, Merab laughed through the pain, a symbol of his resilience even as a child. These formative experiences shaped a mindset that would eventually serve him in the unforgiving world of combat sports. Despite the challenges, Dvalishvili's family worked hard to provide for him. In 1999, they moved to the capital city of Tbilisi, hoping for a better life. They settled into a small basement apartment, living in cramped conditions. Even in these new, still difficult circumstances, Merab's tenacity remained unshaken. He would become known for his spontaneous courage, standing up to bullies and injustices around him. Whether it was defending his family or challenging unfairness, Merab was always the one to fight back, showing an early predisposition for battle that would later manifest inside the cage. In 2012, at the age of 21, Merab took a bold step that would forever alter his life's trajectory. He left his war-torn homeland in search of a better future and the opportunity to pursue his dream of becoming a professional fighter. The journey was fraught with difficulty. He arrived in New York with no knowledge of English and limited resources, struggling to find an MMA gym or secure fights. To make ends meet, he worked construction jobs during the day and trained at night, often exhausted but determined to succeed. His journey was a constant battle against poverty, loneliness, and doubt. At first, Merab's MMA career did not progress as quickly as he hoped. He lost his first professional fight and struggled with his performance, even considering giving up on his dream of fighting. For a brief time, he entertained the idea of leading a normal life, working construction, dating, and living without the pressure of the octagon. But that yearning for greatness never left him. He realized that fighting was his true calling. In a moment of clarity, Merab returned to the gym with newfound resolve, determined to push through the hardships. It was here, at the Serra-Longo gym in New York, where his transformation began. Despite early setbacks, Dvalishvili's perseverance began to pay off. By 2017, after nearly 2 years of balancing construction work and MMA training, Merab's breakthrough moment arrived. He earned a contract with the UFC following a dominant performance in a regional promotion, knocking out the previously undefeated Raufeon Stots with a first-round spinning back fist. That victory marked the turning point in his career. He was no longer just an immigrant working construction. He was a rising star in the MMA world. Merab Dvalishvili's entry into the UFC was anything but typical. While many athletes experience a smooth transition into the sport's biggest stage, Merab's path was anything but conventional. At this point, his name was still unfamiliar to most, and he had only just begun to carve his niche in mixed martial arts. Even with a UFC contract in hand, there were still hurdles to overcome. His debut was a harsh wake-up call. He lost his first two UFC bouts. For many, that might have been enough to reconsider their place in the sport, but for Merab, defeat wasn't an option. It was merely a stepping stone to something greater. After those early losses, Merab faced the harsh reality of what it took to compete at the highest level. He could no longer afford to rely on raw talent alone. He needed to refine his skill set and evolve. In the face of adversity, he worked harder than ever. Every training session became a battle. Every sparring session a chance to learn and grow. His work ethic was unmatched. Merab became obsessed with improving his weaknesses. His takedowns were fine-tuned, his striking sharpened, and his cardio, already formidable, was pushed to new levels of intensity. It was during this transformative period that Merab adopted the relentless style that would become his signature. Known for his stamina and unyielding pace, Dvalishvili started to develop the persona that earned him the nickname, The Machine. No one could match his level of pressure inside the octagon. Opponents quickly learned that Merab wasn't a fighter who would ever tire, that he would never give them a moment's respite. His pace was dizzying, his pressure constant, and his willpower unbreakable. But it wasn't just his physical attributes that set him apart. It was his mindset. Merab had lived through hardship and pain, and he carried that with him every time he stepped into the cage. The challenges he faced in his early life had shaped him into a fighter who could withstand anything, whether it was a brutal loss or the unforgiving nature of competition at the highest level. When others doubted him, he saw it as fuel to his fire. Each setback only intensified his desire to prove himself. Merab's relentless grind continued, and by 2019, he was on a 7-fight win streak, gradually earning respect in the UFC's Bantamweight division. His performances became more dominant, his victories more decisive. His name began to rise through the ranks, and with each win, the MMA world took notice of the Georgian fighter who seemed unstoppable. Among his most notable victories was a massive win over the former Bantamweight champion, Jose Aldo. This fight marked a significant turning point in Merab's career, not just because of the victory itself, but because of the way he dismantled a legend. The bout against Aldo was a showcase of everything Merab had worked for: relentless pressure, impeccable takedowns, and a pace that never slowed. While Aldo, a legend in the sport, struggled to keep up, Merab seemed to have boundless energy, overwhelming his opponent with each passing round. By the time the fight was over, Merab had claimed a unanimous decision victory, proving to the world that he was ready for the big stage. It was after this win that the UFC started to take notice, and whispers began to circulate that Merab Dvalishvili was ready to challenge for a title. But the journey to a title shot wasn't simple. Merab still had obstacles to overcome. Most notably, his teammate and close friend, Aljamain Sterling, was the reigning champion. The UFC often pits teammates against each other in title fights, but Merab's loyalty to Sterling was unwavering. He publicly stated that he would not challenge Sterling for the belt, despite knowing that doing so could hurt his chances of competing for a title. This decision was another example of Merab's character. He wasn't just driven by the prospect of fame or wealth. He had a deeper sense of honor and loyalty. He was a fighter who valued relationships and respect, even when it meant passing up the opportunity for personal glory. For Merab, being a champion wasn't just about holding a belt. It was about being true to oneself and to the people who had helped him get to where he was. As the months went on, Merab's consistency in the octagon earned him his long-awaited title shot. His win streak continued to grow, culminating in a dominant performance against Petr Yan, a former bantamweight champion. Merab's grappling was on full display as he controlled the fight, breaking down Yan with his relentless pressure and wrestling. The victory over Yan was a defining moment in Merab's career. It was a statement to the world that he was ready for the biggest stage. The UFC Bantamweight Championship was within reach, and Merab knew that this was the moment he had worked for all his life. But his journey wasn't just about personal triumph. It was about representing Georgia, the country that had shaped him, and the people who had supported him. Every time he stepped into the cage, he carried with him the weight of his past, the hardships, the struggles, and the lessons he had learned. By the time he faced off against Sean O'Malley for the UFC Bantamweight title, Merab had become a force to be reckoned with. O'Malley, known for his flashy striking and showmanship, was the perfect opponent to test Merab's durability and skills. But Merab's relentless pressure and unbreakable will proved too much for O'Malley. In a dominant performance, Merab claimed the Bantamweight title with a unanimous decision victory, finally achieving the goal he had set out to accomplish all those years ago. With the Bantamweight championship now firmly in his grasp, Merab Dvalishvili had made the impossible possible. A man who once toiled away on construction sites in New York, fighting for every opportunity, was now sitting at the pinnacle of MMA. But while the world celebrated his triumph, Merab knew that his journey was far from over. In fact, he viewed his success not as the end, but as a stepping stone, a new chapter in a story that had already defied the odds. The moment Merab laid his hands on the UFC Bantamweight title, it wasn't just a personal victory. It was a victory for all the underdogs, for anyone who had ever been told they weren't good enough. His rise wasn't just about skill, it was about heart. It was about the refusal to accept defeat, to accept a life where limits were imposed. From his time in the Georgian mountains to the unforgiving streets of New York, Merab had forged an unbreakable spirit. The belt was a symbol of that indomitable will, a testament to the journey he had made. But for all the joy that came with his title, the pressure now mounted. As the new champion, Merab was expected to defend his title, and he quickly learned that being the champion came with its own set of challenges. For starters, every fighter in the division now had their sights set on him. He was no longer the underdog, the unknown fighter. He was the man everyone wanted to beat. Among those chasing Merab was a familiar face, his former opponent, Petr Yan. Their fight had been one of the most anticipated matchups of the year, with Yan, a former champion, looking to reclaim his title. The build-up to the fight was intense, filled with drama and rivalry. But Merab remained calm and collected, unfazed by the external noise. He had been through too much in his life to let the pressure of the moment consume him. He had fought through the chaos of his childhood, survived a grueling journey to the UFC, and now as champion, he wasn't about to let anyone take that from him. When the fight finally took place, Merab's composure and skill were on full display. His ability to push the pace, control the fight with his wrestling, and impose his will on his opponents was evident from the first bell. Yan, known for his precision striking and tactical prowess, found himself overwhelmed by Merab's unrelenting pressure. Round after round, Merab smothered him with his grappling, taking him down time and time again, neutralizing Yan's striking. Nor was it a quick finish, but it was complete domination. Merab had proved once again that his style, his relentless cardio, his overwhelming pressure was enough to overcome any opponent. He had solidified his place as the UFC Bantamweight champion and was now on a path to becoming one of the greatest in the division's history. This victory, however, wasn't the culmination of Merab's story. His rise had never been about one fight or one title. It was about the journey, about showing the world that greatness isn't defined by where you come from or the obstacles in your path, but by the strength of your resolve to overcome them. For Merab, that journey was far from over. The world had just begun to see what he was truly capable of. As the defending champion, Merab now had to face another challenge: repeated title defenses against the best fighters in the world. The first of these challenges came in the form of a rematch with the brash and talented Sean O'Malley. Despite their first bout having been a defining moment in Merab's career, O'Malley remained a dangerous opponent, known for his striking and unorthodox approach to fighting. But Merab was undeterred. He had already proven that he could weather any storm, and now he was ready to do it again. O'Malley, however, wasn't the only fighter vying for Merab's title. The bantamweight division is one of the most competitive in the UFC, and Merab knew that maintaining his spot at the top would require more than just a strong performance in each fight. It would require a clash of wrestling titans. But Merab was unshaken. In the build-up to the fight, he maintained his calm demeanor, refusing to let the pressure of facing another undefeated opponent rattle him. When the fight began, it was clear that both fighters were equally matched in terms of wrestling. Merab's relentless takedown attempts and his ability to control the fight on the ground were met by Umar's superior striking and defensive grappling. Round after round, the two exchanged positions, neither willing to give an inch. The fight turned into a tactical battle, with Merab continuing to push the pace, landing significant strikes and looking for openings in Umar's defense. But it was the fourth round that proved to be the most pivotal. Merab, sensing an opportunity, took control and dominated the ground game, showing that his wrestling, while relentless, was also incredibly refined. By the time the final bell rang, it was clear to everyone in the arena, Merab Dvalishvili had done it again. He had defended his title against one of the best up-and-comers in the division. The judges awarded him the victory, solidifying his legacy as a dominant champion. With the UFC Bantamweight title now secured, Merab Dvalishvili found himself at a crossroads. Many fighters, after achieving what he had, would take a step back, relishing in their success and enjoying the fruits of their labor. But not Merab. For him, being a champion wasn't about basking in the spotlight. It was about setting new goals and pushing himself further. His work ethic remained unchanged, and the relentless pursuit of excellence continued to drive him forward. Merab's unyielding drive was not limited to his training. It was evident in every part of his life. From his social media presence to his interactions with fans, Merab's personality was as genuine as it was eccentric. He didn't shy away from sharing the more absurd moments of his life, like the time he dove into a frozen lake and ended up in the emergency room. His ability to laugh at himself, combined with his unflinching work ethic, made him one of the most endearing and authentic figures in MMA. In fact, this combination of humor and grit is what has allowed Merab to carve out a unique space in the sport. He isn't just a fighter, he's a character, a man who's not afraid to be himself. Whether it's posting videos of his training sessions, sharing his goofy moments, or documenting his personal life, Merab has embraced the power of social media in a way few athletes have. In doing so, he's connected with fans on a deeper level, showing them that behind the warrior in the cage is a real person with flaws, fears, and the ability to laugh at his mistakes. However, there's a fine line between being relatable and being distracted. And Merab, despite his lighthearted personality, has always been able to walk that line. Even while engaging with fans or sharing humorous moments, he never loses sight of his ultimate goal, defending his title and continuing to improve as a fighter. His social media antics may have earned him followers, but it's his work inside the octagon that keeps him at the top. He knows that the belt he holds is a target, and every day that passes, someone else is working tirelessly to take it from him. As his career has progressed, Merab has faced the challenge of staying hungry. In MMA, once you reach the top, the hardest part isn't the climb, it's staying there. Fighters often face the mental struggle of complacency, of being satisfied with their achievements. But Merab, who had already overcome so many personal obstacles, never allowed himself to settle. Instead, he surrounded himself with people who would push him, critique him, and help him become better. His team, including his coaches, Ray Longo and Matt Serra, played a crucial role in keeping him grounded. They made sure he stayed focused on his goals, not distracted by the accolades or the attention that came with being a champion. Every fight after his title win became a test of his legacy. But it wasn't just about defending his title, it was about continuing to grow. Merab, despite his unparalleled cardio and relentless wrestling, knew that he could not rest on his laurels. He had seen the examples of other champions who became complacent and saw their reigns end in defeat. He couldn't afford to fall into that trap. This relentless pursuit of growth meant constantly refining his skills and evolving his game. He studied his opponents, learning everything he could to find new ways to break them down. And while Merab's wrestling was his most formidable weapon, his striking began to evolve as well. He knew that in order to remain at the top, he couldn't rely solely on his grappling. Fighters were becoming more well-rounded, and Merab recognized that to maintain his dominance, he needed to be able to strike with anyone in the division. So alongside his takedown-heavy game, he began to improve his stand-up. With his speed, power, and impeccable timing, Merab worked to add more unpredictability to his striking, making him an even more dangerous opponent. When the rematch with Sean O'Malley finally arrived, it was a moment for Merab to prove that his first victory over O'Malley was no fluke. The hype around O'Malley was undeniable, with fans eager to see the charismatic fighter defend his belt against the unstoppable machine that was Merab. As the fight approached, the weight of the occasion was evident, but Merab remained his usual calm self, focusing not on the spectacle, but on the job at hand. In the lead-up to the fight, Merab ignored the noise. He didn't engage in the trash talk, didn't let the media or O'Malley's antics distract him. He stayed true to his fighting philosophy. Let the performance in the cage speak for itself. This quiet confidence and focus on the task at hand were what separated Merab from many other fighters. For him, it wasn't about the attention, the fame, or the championship celebrations. It was about his love for the sport and his relentless drive to be the best. When the rematch finally, O'Malley, known for his flashy striking and explosive offense, couldn't handle Merab's pressure. Time and time again, Merab took O'Malley to the ground, dominating him with his wrestling and suffocating pace. O'Malley struggled to get anything going, and Merab's relentless pressure broke him mentally. By the end of the fight, it was clear that Merab had once again proved his dominance. His victory wasn't. Despite all the accolades, Merab remained humble. He had come from nothing and never forgot where he came from. He was still that young boy from Georgia, that man working construction in New York, that fighter who refused to give up on his dreams. The belt he held was a symbol of everything he had fought for, and every day he continued to honor it by pushing himself further. Merab Dvalishvili's career as a UFC champion is not just about the title he holds, but the spirit that drives him. Behind the relentless takedowns, the unyielding pressure, and the perfect cardio, there is a man who has faced immense adversity throughout his life. The fighter who steps into the cage isn't just the product of years of training, he's the result of countless battles against life's harshest challenges. From a small village in Georgia to the bright lights of the UFC, Merab's journey is a testament to the power of persistence, hard work, and a never-quit mentality. Growing up in the rugged mountains of Georgia, Merab was no stranger to hardship. His childhood was one of constant struggle, marked by the collapse of the Soviet Union and the violent, chaotic environment that followed. It wasn't the kind of environment where dreams were encouraged, but rather where survival was the main focus. Yet in that environment, Merab learned lessons that would shape his life. He learned that there were no guarantees, that you had to fight for everything, and that if you fell, you had to get back up. These early life lessons formed the foundation of his fighting spirit, a spirit that, to this day, drives him forward. Every time Merab stepped into the cage, he carried with him the weight of his past. His struggles in Georgia, his challenging journey to America, and his relentless fight to earn respect in the UFC, all of these moments were etched into his character. It's no wonder that, even as the champion, Merab remained unshaken by the external pressures that come with fame and success. The trials of his past made him immune to the pressure of being the top contender. For him, the struggle was the reward, and every opponent, every fight, was just another chance to prove that nothing could break him. But being the champion came with its own unique set of challenges. Now Merab was no longer fighting just for himself or for his country. He was fighting to retain the title, to defend the legacy he had built. Each victory, though sweet, was also a reminder of the target on his back. He wasn't just fighting for glory anymore. He was fighting to stay at the top. The pressure of defending his title against the best in the world was something Merab didn't take lightly, but it was something he was built for. Merab's approach to being champion has always been grounded in the same principles that helped him achieve his success in the first place: hard work, self-belief, and an unwavering refusal to back down. It's easy to get lost in the distractions of fame, to succumb to the hype and the media buzz. But Merab has always remained focused on what matters: his next fight. It's that kind of tunnel vision that has allowed him to stay on top, and it's what will continue to fuel him as he faces his next challenge. The first major test as champion came in the form of his long-awaited rematch with Sean O'Malley. O'Malley, the charismatic and highly talented fighter, had captured the attention of the MMA world with his striking and flashy style. Despite losing their first encounter, O'Malley remained a huge star, and many believed he would regain the title. But Merab's mindset was clear. He wasn't here to entertain, he was here to dominate. The fight against O'Malley wasn't just about defending his title, it was about proving, once again, that his style, relentless pressure, unparalleled cardio, and impeccable wrestling, was a formula that could defeat any challenger, no matter their hype or status. Merab entered the fight with his usual focus. He wasn't concerned with the fanfare, the media attention, or the expectations that came with facing a fighter like O'Malley. For Merab, this was just another challenge, another chance to prove that the title was his and his alone. As the fight unfolded, it became clear that O'Malley's strengths, while impressive, weren't enough to withstand Merab's relentless pressure. Merab controlled the pace from start to finish, taking O'Malley down repeatedly and suffocating him with his wrestling. The striking exchanges, which many thought would be the deciding factor, were almost non-existent. O'Malley simply couldn't get into a rhythm. Merab's control and pressure were too much, and once again, he proved why he was the champion. The victory was more than just a title defense, it was a statement. Merab's style, the one that had been honed through years of hardship, was not just effective, it was superior. He didn't need to be flashy or rely on a highlight reel knockout to prove his worth. Merab's brand of fighting was about consistency, about pushing the pace until his opponents broke. And that's exactly what happened with O'Malley. The champion had faced one of the most dangerous fighters in the division and left no doubt about who the real king of the bantamweight division was. But Merab's journey was far from over. As the UFC bantamweight champion, he knew that new challengers would emerge, each one hungry for the chance to dethrone him. The pressure of being champion wasn't just a one-time ordeal, it was a constant challenge that Merab embraced. The fighter who thrives under pressure, who can continue to perform when all eyes are on him, is the one who remains at the top. And Merab's ability to rise to every challenge, to handle the pressure of being the best, is what will ensure that he continues to be one of the most dominant forces in MMA. His success in the UFC and his status as the bantamweight champion have already solidified his place in the history books. But for Merab, the story is far from over. Every fight, every title defense, is just another chapter in his saga. A saga that continues to be defined by an unbreakable spirit, a relentless work ethic, and the refusal to be broken by any opponent, no matter how fierce. The world knows him as the Machine, but it's his heart, his soul, and his character that make Merab Dvalishvili a true champion. With the UFC bantamweight title firmly secured, Merab Dvalishvili had reached the pinnacle of his career. But in the world of mixed martial arts, being champion is a constant battle, not just against opponents, but against the weight of expectations, the pressure to defend the title, and the internal drive to remain at the top. For Merab, the struggle to retain his position was as significant as the fight to earn it. And as he looked around at the formidable talent in the bantamweight division, he knew that his work was far from done. Merab's reign as champion was marked by a fierce sense of responsibility. The belt represented not just his personal achievement, but the culmination of years of sacrifice, hard work, and unyielding determination. To hold that belt was to carry the pride of his country, his coaches, and the team that had helped him reach that point. For Merab, this wasn't just about being the best. It was about proving that anyone, regardless of their background or circumstances, could rise to greatness if they were willing to fight for it. In the face of this pressure, Merab remained remarkably composed. He had lived through adversity since childhood, and that background gave him a unique resilience. He wasn't distracted by the fanfare, the media attention, or the distractions that come with being a champion. Instead, he kept his focus squarely on the task at hand, defending his title and continuing to evolve as a fighter. It wasn't about the fame, the money, or the accolades. It was about the love of the sport and the desire to remain the best. As the reigning champion, Merab now found himself surrounded by a growing list of potential challengers, fighters who, just like him, had dreams of becoming the next bantamweight champion. Every challenger presented a unique set of challenges, but Merab's unrelenting approach to fighting remained the same. No matter who stepped up to face him, he would bring his signature pressure, his world-class wrestling, and his unrivaled cardio to the cage. One of the biggest challenges Merab faced came from the intense rivalries within the division. The bantamweight class is one of the most stacked in the UFC, and with that comes not just competition, but animosity between fighters. As a champion, Merab found himself in the center of this whirlwind, constantly surrounded by fighters eager to dethrone him. The most notable of these challengers was Sean O'Malley, a rising star who had the charisma, the style, and the fan base to rival Merab's own. Their first fight had already set the stage for what would become one of the most talked-about rivalries in the UFC, and the rematch was set to be a clash of titans. Merab's rivalry with O'Malley was more than just about fighting for the belt. It was about proving something much bigger. O'Malley, with his brash, effective, if not more so, than any other style. The build-up to the rematch was a spectacle. O'Malley's star power and unique personality made him a fan favorite, and the media frenzy only amplified the tension between the two fighters. But for Merab, the noise didn't matter. He wasn't interested in trading insults or engaging in a war of words. He was there to do one thing: win. And when the rematch finally arrived, Merab delivered in a way that only he could. He showcased his superior wrestling, taking O'Malley down repeatedly and nullifying his striking. O'Malley, despite his talent, simply couldn't handle the pressure. By the end of the fight, Merab had proven once again that his relentless, high-pressure style was more than enough to overcome any challenge. But even as Merab defended his title, his journey was far from over. His success had brought him to the top, but maintaining that success required constant growth and adaptation. Fighters in the UFC are constantly evolving, and Merab knew that in order to stay ahead of the competition, he needed to continue refining his skills. He wasn't just focused on holding on to the title, he was focused on improving every single day. Whether it was sharpening his striking or further developing his already dominant wrestling, Merab was committed to being the best version of himself, not just the best fighter in the division, and the power of the human spirit. And as he looks to the future, one thing is certain: Merab Dvalishvili will continue to fight, evolve, and inspire the world, proving that no obstacle is too great and no challenge too daunting for those willing to fight for their dreams. As Merab Dvalishvili's career continues to unfold, his place in the annals of UFC history is being written with each victory, each title defense, and each grueling challenge he faces. What sets Merab apart from many champions in combat sports is not just his physicality or his skill in the octagon. His story is one of persistence, overcoming adversity, and proving that greatness is not just reserved for those with natural talent, but for those willing to work tirelessly for it. While Merab's UFC journey is a testament to the power of resilience and determination, his story is about more than just his fighting ability to inspire others. When Merab first arrived in the United States, he didn't speak English, had no money, and was far from the fighter the world would come to know. He worked long hours as a construction laborer, lifting heavy materials and mixing cement, while dreaming of a future that seemed far out of reach. But it was during those difficult years that Merab's character was forged. Every drop of sweat, every moment of exhaustion became part of the foundation that would eventually lead him to the UFC. Throughout his journey, Merab has remained grounded, always remembering where he came from. Despite the fame and success, he has never let the trappings of being a UFC champion overshadow the lessons he learned as a young man. The struggles in Georgia, the pain of working long hours to survive in America, and the bond he shares with his family and teammates. These things continue to shape him as both a fighter and a person. Merab's unwavering humility is a cornerstone of his legacy. As a champion, he understands the significance of his position, not just for himself, but for his country, for those who supported him, and for the generations of aspiring fighters watching him. He knows that the road to the top wasn't easy, but he also understands that he has a responsibility to be a role model, to show that hard work and persistence can overcome even the most challenging of circumstances, defining qualities. He frequently pits teammates against one another for championship opportunities. Merab has always maintained that he would never fight Sterling for the title. That kind of selflessness is rare in the world of MMA, where financial and career ambitions often take precedence over personal connections. Merab's decision to put his friendship and loyalty above personal glory speaks volumes about the kind of person he is. It also adds depth to his character, proving that his heart and integrity are as strong as his physical prowess in the cage. But even with all of these qualities, Merab's journey is far from complete. His undefeated streak and dominant performances in the UFC have solidified him as one of the most feared fighters in the bantamweight division. Yet for Merab, there's always more to prove. Every fight is an opportunity to grow, to challenge himself, and to refine his skills. Even as a champion, he continues to push the limits of his training, always looking for ways to evolve. His commitment to improvement and his refusal to settle for mediocrity are what keep him at the top of his game. For Merab, it's not about maintaining a certain level of fame or basking in the glory of his past victories. It's about pushing the boundaries of what he can achieve, about continuing to evolve into a more complete fighter and a stronger person. He knows that the road ahead will be filled with new challenges, each opponent bringing their own unique set of skills, strategies, and strengths, but he's ready to face them all. This relentless pursuit of excellence is what drives him to keep fighting, to keep improving, and to keep proving that he belongs among the greatest. And as his career progresses, Merab's impact extends far beyond his own achievements. He is quickly becoming a beacon for aspiring fighters, particularly from Georgia and other parts of Eastern Europe, who see his rise as a symbol of what is possible when you refuse to give up. He has shown them that no matter where you start, with enough determination and discipline, you can rise to the top of the MMA world. His story is one of inspiration, not just for those who dream of becoming UFC champions, but for anyone who has ever faced adversity and dared to fight through it. The evolution of Merab Dvalishvili, from the streets of Tbilisi to the spotlight of the UFC, is a story that will resonate for years to come. As his career unfolds, one thing is certain: Merab will continue to be a champion in every sense of the word. He will fight for greatness for his family, for his country, and for the future generations of fighters who will follow in his footsteps. His legacy will not just be defined by the title belts, the records, or the accolades. It will be defined by the unbreakable spirit that carried him to the top and continues to push him forward, fight after fight. And in the years to come, Merab Dvalishvili will be remembered as more than just a UFC champion. He will be remembered as a man who embodied the heart of a warrior, the courage of a leader, and the soul of a true champion. Merab Dvalishvili's career in the UFC is an ongoing saga of determination, grit, and overcoming insurmountable odds. As each chapter unfolds, it becomes clear that his legacy is being written not only in victories and accolades, but in the very essence of who he is as a fighter and a person. What stands out most about Merab isn't just his impressive fighting skills or his rise to the top. It's his unwavering commitment to his values, his family, and his country. The deeper story of his legacy lies in his influence on the sport and the people who look up to him. When Merab first stepped into the UFC, few could have predicted the explosive rise he would have. He wasn't the flashiest fighter or the most marketable star, but what he lacked in flair, he more than made up for with his relentless work ethic and a style that left no room for complacency. His cardio, takedown accuracy, and mental fortitude were all honed from years of hardship, and he displayed them in every fight. The constant pressure he exerts in the octagon, his ability to never back down, and his desire to continuously evolve have made him one of the most dominant figures in the bantamweight division. But it's not just about winning for Merab. It's about the manner in which he does it. His fights are not about seeking a quick knockout or flashy finishes. Instead, they're a demonstration of his core philosophy: relentless persistence, unmatched pace, and constant improvement. Each time he enters the octagon, Merab is not just defending his title, he's making a statement about the kind of champion he is: grounded, disciplined, and driven by purpose. It's easy for champions to become consumed by fame and the distractions that come with being in the public eye. Yet Merab has managed to remain remarkably focused. He still trains tirelessly, still pushes himself to be better every single day, and remains deeply committed to his team and family. This unwavering dedication to his roots is a key component of his legacy. The championship belts and accolades may come and go, but his heart, his work ethic, and his loyalty will endure. He's become a symbol of what it means to fight, not just in the cage, but in life. A fighter who stands for something greater than himself. The impact Merab has had on his home country, Georgia, is also profound. When he first started out in MMA, few could have imagined that a small village fighter would rise to UFC stardom. His success is not just his own, it represents the possibilities for the entire nation. He's become an ambassador for Georgian MMA, showing the world that talent and grit are not bound by borders. Merab's success has inspired countless young athletes, not just in Georgia, but across Eastern Europe, to pursue their dreams, regardless of the obstacles in their way. For many of them, his journey proves that with enough heart and determination, even the toughest odds can be overcome. His story transcends sports. It speaks to the power of resilience and the strength of the human spirit. There's a reason why Merab's journey resonates with fans around the world. It's not just his success in the UFC, it's his unwavering belief in himself, his commitment to improving, and his refusal to let anything or anyone define his limits. Through every fight, every challenge, and every victory, he's shown that true champions are not born, they're made. And they're made through the relentless pursuit of their goals. As his career progresses, Merab remains a fighter in the truest sense of the word, not just in the octagon, but in life. He has faced more adversity than most, and yet he continues to rise, undefeated in his mindset. Every fight now has a deeper meaning, not just for Merab, but for the sport of MMA itself. The UFC is a league full of extraordinary talent, but Merab's brand of fighting, his suffocating pressure, his strategic wrestling, and his unbreakable will sets him apart from the rest. Now as a champion, Merab is no longer just fighting for himself. He's fighting for something bigger. With every victory, he solidifies the dream he once had, proving that no matter where you start, if you have the heart, the will, and the drive to succeed, you can become a champion. He's not just representing himself or Georgia. He's representing the countless individuals who have ever been told they couldn't make it. His rise to the top is a testament to the power of perseverance, and it will continue to inspire those who come after him for years to come. In the years to come, as Merab continues to defend his title and add to his already impressive legacy, one thing will remain clear. He is not just a UFC champion. He is a fighter who has earned his place in the sport's history through unrelenting work, an unwavering sense of purpose, and a refusal to ever back down. His legacy will be defined not just by the belts he holds, but by the battles he's fought outside the cage, the personal struggles, the sacrifices, and the resilience that have shaped him into the man and champion he is today. Merab Dvalishvili's story is far from over. His next chapters will undoubtedly be filled with more challenges, more rivals, and more triumphs. But whatever the future holds, one thing is certain. His legacy is already secure. He is a true champion, not just of the UFC, but of life itself. Merab Dvalishvili's journey in the UFC has already cemented his legacy as one of the most dominant bantamweight champions the sport has ever seen. But as the years pass, it becomes increasingly clear that Merab's story is not just about what he accomplishes in the octagon, it's about the impact he leaves beyond it. Every victory, every grind in training, and every ounce of sweat poured into his career has created a platform for Merab to inspire not only the current generation of fighters, but the next one as well. As a champion, Merab's influence extends far beyond the cage. His rise from a small village in Georgia to UFC glory has made him a beacon of hope for countless people around the world who feel that their dreams are out of reach. He has become a symbol of what can be achieved through sheer willpower and an unwavering refusal to accept failure. In every fight, in every moment of his career, Merab carries the weight of his upbringing, the struggles, the adversity, and turns them into a source of strength that fuels his performance. But while his achievements in MMA have been remarkable, the most lasting aspect of Merab's legacy may lie in how he uses his success to influence others. He's aware of the power he holds as a role model, and he doesn't take it lightly. Merab has consistently demonstrated that his success is not just for his personal gain, but to uplift others who are following in his footsteps. He knows the value of representing those who might not have the same opportunities. and that responsibility is something he carries with honor. Merab's relationship with his homeland of Georgia is a perfect example of how he sees his role as a representative of something bigger than himself. As the first Georgian-born UFC champion, he has brought the sport of mixed martial arts into the spotlight for his nation, inspiring countless young fighters from all over Eastern Europe. When he steps into the cage, he's not just fighting for the title, he's fighting for his family, his community, and his country. His victories serve as a testament to the possibility that, no matter where you come from, you can rise to the top of the sport with enough dedication and belief. Merab's loyalty to his roots also speaks volumes about his character. While many fighters often shift focus to the business side of things, seeking sponsorships, endorsement deals, or celebrity status, Merab has remained dedicated to his roots both in the gym and in life. He continues to train at Serra-Longo, the gym that welcomed him when he first moved to the U.S., and he remains deeply connected to his trainers, Ray Longo and Matt Serra, who have been instrumental in his development as a fighter. Their bond has created a unique synergy that extends beyond technical skill, reinforcing Merab's belief that true greatness is achieved through support, loyalty, and humility. This loyalty also extends to his fellow fighters. Merab's refusal to fight his close friend and training partner, Aljamain Sterling, for the title speaks to his respect for relationships in the fight world. The loyalty between the two fighters, who share a common goal of elevating each other, has become a model for how professional fighters can coexist and support one another while chasing the same dreams. In an era of trash talk and heightened rivalries, Merab stands as a reminder that camaraderie and respect still hold value in the world of professional combat sports. Beyond his commitments as a fighter and teammate, Merab's personal life also plays a significant role in shaping his legacy. Off the mat, he remains grounded and approachable, a humble figure who is deeply connected to the people who matter most to him. Whether it's through sharing stories about his childhood struggles or discussing his faith, Merab gives fans a glimpse into the heart of the man behind the gloves. His openness about his journey has made him relatable to fans around the world, especially those who come from similar backgrounds of hardship. For Merab, success is not defined by the belts around his waist or the recognition from the UFC. Instead, it's about the long-term impact he leaves in the hearts of people who believe they can overcome their own obstacles. He's the fighter who proves that no matter how many setbacks you face, no matter how many times you fall, you can rise up and accomplish the impossible. His resilience and work ethic aren't just qualities of a great fighter. They're qualities of a leader, a role model, and a champion of the human spirit. Looking ahead, Merab's influence is poised to grow. As his career progresses, his platform continues to expand, and he has the opportunity to use his success to further his charitable work and help those in need. Whether it's inspiring young athletes to pursue their dreams or supporting causes that matter to him, Merab's next steps outside the cage could be just as important as the battles he faces inside it. The legacy he is creating now, based on humility, integrity, and an unrelenting drive to be the best, will continue to serve as a source of inspiration for years to come. In the future, Merab will likely become a mentor to the next generation of fighters, sharing the wisdom he's gained through his own trials and triumphs. As a coach or a spokesperson for MMA, he will undoubtedly pass on the lessons he's learned to others, teaching them not just how to fight, but how to carry themselves with dignity and resilience. The day will come when Merab Dvalishvili steps away from active competition, but his legacy will continue to thrive through those he has inspired and the example he has set. As his career continues to evolve, one thing remains certain: Merab Dvalishvili will always be remembered as more than just a UFC champion. He will be remembered as a true ambassador of the sport, an athlete whose influence transcends the cage and whose legacy will inspire generations of fighters to come. Through his grit, perseverance, and heart, Merab has proven that true greatness is about more than titles and trophies. It's about the journey, the struggles, and the unwavering commitment to never stop pushing forward. Merab Dvalishvili's rise through the ranks of the UFC has been nothing short of spectacular. From his early days of struggling to find his footing in a new country to becoming a dominant force in the Bantamweight division, Merab has always been a fighter defined by persistence and resilience. But as his legacy continues to grow, And as he climbs the UFC ladder, a new reality begins to set in. Merab's greatest test is not just about defending his title, but about maintaining his hunger, his discipline, and his drive in a sport that constantly evolves. The UFC is known for its unpredictability, where fighters are only as good as their last fight. In the cutthroat world of mixed martial arts, champions are made and broken by their performances. Fighters who once dominated, evolve, or stay ahead of the competition. As the reigning champion, Merab Dvalishvili has faced that reality every time he steps into the octagon. Each fight, each challenger, represents a new challenge, and the pressure of defending the title only increases with time. Yet despite these pressures, Merab continues to stand tall, determined to prove that he is the best bantamweight fighter in the world. As Merab enters the later stages of his career, the real test of his greatness lies not just in how he dominates in the cage, but in how he continues to evolve and handle the inevitable challenges that come with prolonged success. Merab has already proven that he has the physical skills, the mental fortitude, and the work ethic to reach the top of the sport. However, the greatest challenge for any champion is not the fight itself. It's the battle against complacency, against the temptation to coast on past successes. One of the most defining characteristics of champions who maintain their status for long periods is the ability to keep pushing forward, to maintain that burning desire to improve. This is where Merab's unique background and mentality come into play. His life has never been one of ease or comfort. Every step of his journey has been met with struggle, adversity, and hardship. From his difficult upbringing in Georgia, where he grew up amidst war and poverty, to working long hours as a construction worker in New York, Merab has always had to fight for everything. It's this background that keeps him grounded, reminding him that nothing in life is guaranteed and that the battle never ends. As Merab's success grows, the expectations placed upon him continue to rise. Fans, analysts, and even fellow fighters have all begun to talk about his legacy. There are whispers, but with that praise comes the pressure of living up to the hype. The UFC is a constantly changing landscape, with new contenders emerging every year, all hungry for their shot at the title. Merab has already faced a number of formidable opponents, fighters who, at one point, were thought to be his toughest challenges. And with each title defense, he continues to prove that his style, his relentless pressure, his incredible cardio, and his superior wrestling is a formula that works against anyone. But as time goes on, the question remains, can Merab maintain this level of excellence? Can he continue to evolve and stay one step ahead of the competition? The sport of MMA is constantly advancing, with new techniques, strategies, and styles emerging all the time. Merab has always prided himself on his ability to adapt, to refine his game, and to continue improving. His relentless work ethic and his refusal to take his success for granted will likely be the key factors that determine how long he remains at the top. Yet as he faces off against more and more contenders, it's inevitable that Merab will encounter new challenges that push him further than he's ever been pushed before. Fighters like Petr Yan, Corey Sandhagen, and other rising stars in the division will test Merab's limits. But these challenges aren't something to fear. They're what will define him as a true champion. The greatest fighters in history are the ones who have faced adversity head-on and come out on top. Merab, with his history of overcoming challenges, has proven that he has what it takes to do just that. For Merab, the next few years will be a test of not just his physical ability, but also his mental strength. Will he be able to maintain the same intensity that got him to the top? Can he continue to outwork the younger fighters, outlast the rising stars, and stay hungry for more? The answer to those questions will determine whether Merab Dvalishvili remains at the top of the UFC for years to come, or if he will eventually be surpassed by the next wave of fighters. However, with everything we know about Merab, the relentless pressure, the work ethic, the heart, it's clear that he isn't going down without a fight. As Merab Dvalishvili stands at the pinnacle of his career, it's easy to look at his journey as a story of triumph, of a young fighter from a small village in Georgia who battled against all odds to reach the top of the UFC. His rise to the title was anything but easy, marked by early struggles, setbacks, and moments where the dream seemed out of reach. But as he now reigns as the bantamweight champion, It's clear that Merab's legacy is not just about the titles he's won or the records he's set. It's about the example he's set for future generations of fighters and fans alike. Merab's legacy is built on more than just his performances in the cage. His story represents the power of perseverance, the ability to overcome adversity, and the importance of staying true to one's values. His success wasn't handed to him. It was earned through years of hard work, sacrifice, and an unyielding commitment to his goals. Every time Merab enters the cage, he brings more than just his skills. He brings a lifetime of experience, a mindset forged through hardship, and a desire to prove to the world that nothing is impossible. What sets Merab apart from many other fighters is his unbreakable spirit. He didn't have the smoothest journey to the UFC. He didn't come from a wealthy background, nor did he have the luxury of early support from top-tier trainers. But what he did have was an incredible will to succeed. That drive, born out of his struggles in Georgia and his sacrifices in the United States, is what allowed him to rise to the top of the sport. Merab didn't just want to be a champion, he needed to be one. And that need, that burning desire, is what has made him so unstoppable. As Merab continues to defend his title and dominate in the UFC, his legacy will only continue to grow. The world now knows his name, but more importantly, they know what it stands for. His story is one of triumph over adversity, of a man who refused to accept limitations and instead worked tirelessly to break through every barrier that stood in his way. His story is a testament to the power of hard work, sacrifice, and the belief that greatness is not something that is given. It's something that is earned through every fight, every training session, and every challenge faced. Looking ahead, Merab's impact on the UFC and the sport of MMA will continue to be felt long after he steps away from the cage. His legacy will not only be defined by the number of title defenses or the rivalries he's conquered, but by the fighters he's inspired and the example he's set for the future of mixed martial arts. Merab Dvalishvili has already made history, and his place among the sport's greats is secure. But it's not just his championship reign that will define him. It's the indomitable spirit that has driven him to achieve greatness against all odds. As we look back on Merab's career and his incredible journey, one thing is clear. He has truly earned his place in MMA history. The lessons he's learned, the battles he's fought, and the way he's handled his success have made him one of the most respected and admired fighters in the UFC. His legacy is secure, not just as a champion, but as a true representative of the heart and soul of mixed martial arts.